Well, folks, today we're going to be digging into the 2025 Virginia's governor race. Now, it is heating up fast, and it's going to be a big one. As we know, Virginia is the only Republican-held governorship up for re-election, or that is on the ballot in 2025, along with the Democrat-held New Jersey governorship, which are the only two governorships that are up for re-election in the 2025 elections this year. Now, we're going to see, it's going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out in Virginia's governor race. But before we get into that, drop down below if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, and make sure you never miss another video from us again in the future. Now, first off, let's set this up. The election here is on November 4th, 2025. I believe the primaries are going to be held right around about June 17th. And in Virginia, current Governor Glenn Younkin, a very solid conservative who flipped the state red in 2021, cannot run again in the Virginia Constitution. A governor cannot serve consecutive terms in the state. So it is an open race right now. And right now there are two big names that are leading the pack, one on the Republican side, one on the Democrat side. You have current Lt Governor Winsome Sears on the Republican side, who is most likely going to win the Republican primary. And then on the Democrat side, you have former Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger from, I believe she was from Congressional District 7. Yes. She won during Trump's first midterm. She's a former CIA official. And then served there throughout the Biden administration. Now, both have declared their runs very early. Spanberger was in 2023 and Sears in 2024. And like I said, this is who we think is going to be leading the pack. Obviously, there are some other names out here. Amanda Chase, Dave LaRock, that have publicly expressed interest as of right now. On the Democrat side, there's only one other person, who is Bobby Scott, who is a representative from Virginia's 3rd Congressional District, who has served there for, over 30 years at this point. But like I said, as of right now, this is who we believe will be leading the charge at that point. Now, let's start on the Republican side of the aisle here, with Winsome Sears. Currently, she is the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Virginia. She was elected alongside Glenn Younkin back in 2021. She is a Marine vet. She immigrated from Jamaica and made a history as the first black woman to hold a statewide office here in Virginia. Now, she's got grit. I think that's a good way to put it. I really, really liked her when she won back in 2021. She was going on different talk shows on Fox, even going on some more liberal mainstream media style outlets, and was not afraid to go into the lion's den. She was not afraid to go in and call the liberal BS out for what it is. Absolute liberal BS. Now, back in 2001, she had flipped Virginia's House of Delegates, the 90th district. It was held by a Democrat. She was able to flip that to where she was able to win as a Republican. And now she has Glenn Younkin's endorsement in this race. That's the big one. If you're looking at endorsements in this election, Glenn Younkin, that's the big one. Look over here. Abigail Spanberger, Tim Kaine, Don Beyer, Rick Butcher, Jerry Connolly. It's like the list just goes on and on and on. Statewide officials, former governors, former attorney generals, state cabinet officials, state legislators. It is something. She has got a lot of support that's been thrown behind her as of right now in the race. Now, talking about her record, Winsome Sears, her record. Now, when they won back in 2021, it was a big parental rights push. That's education and parental rights was what they ran on and how they won. They fought against school shutdowns during COVID and backed policies like right to work policies that keep unions from strong-arming workers. Now, conservatives, we want to see a fighter. We want to see one who gets results done and doesn't bow to the left's radical nonsense that they're always going to be pushing. And I feel like that's something that she definitely can embody. I think Glenn Younkin has done a great job with that. We're going to see how does her lieutenant governor play out in that same position. Now, polls are showing that she's got traction. An Emerson poll conducted back in January shows Spanberger with a 1-point advantage, 42-41 against her. Obviously neck and neck. You're right in the margin of error there. And even in that same poll, she was killing it with men. 52% support among men, 50 support among white voters. That's a strong base to build on in Virginia here. Now, flipping over to the other side of the aisle, and I guess before we completely flip over there, let's just discuss one thing about what her campaign is going to need to entail going forward. Now, like we said, in the 2021 race, Republicans, they ran on parents' rights. That was the playbook that they had to flip the Virginia's governorship in 2021. It was on an education platform, parents' concerns, really putting a hard stop to governmental overreach from, when these local governments tried to assert, and even state governments tried to assert authority during the COVID pandemic. And I think that's something that could definitely, like we have from NBC here, definitely needs to be retooled. This is how they can win parents' rights, the campaign. I think that is a good place for them to be in a blue-leaning state. But they have to expand on it. Now, obviously, critical race theory was the big thing back then. Now it's DEI policies, and even transgender policies in the school system. Transgender males competing in girls' sports. That's an 80-20 issue. Those are winning issues, but an issue could be is if President Trump does not return his promise. Obviously they passed the reconciliation bill last night in the House. We need to get this reconciliation bill in frickin' law. We need time for there to be economic impacts from what has taken place in that bill. That's going to be a big part of it. But if we're just looking at the state, just looking at education, they need to retool. They need to figure out what's going to work in 2025 because, as we know, Virginia's governorship, the last nine times that they've elected a governor, 8 out of those 9 times they've elected a governor of the opposite party. That's just the simple reality of Virginia since the late 70s. And it's like, you have from a Republican strategist here, Zach Ruday, saying that education, it will be a big part of the campaign just as it was in 2021. It fits nicely into the, quote, common sense arguments in the kitchen table issues. And I think it is a great way to put Democrats on defense, he said. So we're going to see what happens. They're really going to need to rekey, kind of focus in on some of those cultural issues that affect people at that local level where people are not okay, even in liberal states, with transgender men competing in women's sports, transgender men being in women's bathrooms. That's just the reality of the situation. But if we jump over to Abigail Spanberger here, let's see. Now, Abigail Spanberger, like we said, she's a former CIA officer, won Virginia's 7th congressional district seat in 2018 during Trump's first midterm, flipping it blue. It was held by a Republican. And then in 2024, she decided she was not going to run for re-election because she was going to run for the governor of Virginia. And it just shows she's been planning this, like we said, for over a year now. It's like she announced in November of 2023 that she would not run for a re-election and would run for the governor's race. So she's had a long runway to raise money, get the ground game in place, and some more of those structural pieces to a campaign. She has more time to focus on that as of right now. And Democrats want to paint her as a moderate, but let's be real. She voted against a parent's Bill of Rights in Congress and backed the Biden agenda, 90+% of the time. And her pitch is all about affordability and healthcare, but it's the same old big government overreach playbook. More spending, more control over your lives. That's what the Democrats are about. They want to spend more money and they want more control over your lives. They don't want to cut taxes. They don't want to cut spending. And like we said, polls do have a slight edge. That Emerson poll that took place showed her with a slight edge by 1 point over her. But the real thing is she's got almost $6.5 million in the bank right now. Triple the amount of money that Winsome Sears has in the bank. And now we know cash does not always matter. You look at the 2024 presidential election, cash does not always matter, but it's not everything, but it does matter at the end of the day. You need to have cash to run a good campaign. It's just as simple as that. And here's where the race really hits hard: is Virginia is on the federal level is a blue state. Kamala Harris won the state by about 6 points in 2024, but Republicans have been able to hold the line on some of these state offices. Like we said, Youngkin in 21, when he won, it proved conservatives can win with a clear message in Virginia in these blue states. Parents over bureaucrats. That's really what it boiled down to, was the individual rights of the person over what the bureaucracy, what the state of Virginia wanted to do to suppress those parental rights, whether it was school shutdowns, whether it was masks, whether it was vaccine mandates, whether it was book banning, whatever it was. They are all about that. That's just what they're all about. And Republicans can win on that message. And Winsome Sears must double down on that. She needs to keep taxes low, focus on schools and education, not DEI garbage. And Spanberger, she's the exact opposite. Her party is obsessed with gender-neutral laws, the Green New scam, and crime spikes across the country. Now, like we said, since the 70s, Virginia has picked the opposite party of the White House 8 out of 9 times. So with Trump back in office, you would say this would favor Spanberger in this situation here. But one thing that could hurt Republicans, now we talked about what can the Republicans do to rekey their tools. What is one thing that could hurt Republicans in the upcoming race? Now, as we know, the Trump administration has been aggressively pushing to cut jobs in the government. As we know, Virginia is home to almost 150,000 federal employees, many more government contractors as well. And Virginia, along with New Jersey, is picking new governors in 2025. And that could very much sway voter attitude in these races, where when a race is decided by 2 or 3 points in a close election, this could hurt the Republicans. Although I believe it is good for the overall country, there is a large population of these people who are going to be affected in Virginia. And I think there's 2 sides to it, which we're going to get into. But government workers are struggling across the country, and there's a large density of federal workers in Virginia, according to a political director with the American Federation of Government Employees. These folks are dedicated civil servants who are being put out of work, and I have no doubt that they will be looking to the upcoming elections to see who speaks out in their defense and is willing to champion pro-worker, pro-union issues, which is weird because, the Trump administration is all about pro-union. We're also about pro-worker, but we're not pro-leech on the ass of society. We're not about the NSA having secret sex chats talking about gangbangs. And if you can't explain what were 5 things that you did last week that supports the overall goal of the federal government, I don't see why you should still have a job. Unless you're maybe in the intelligence community or it's classified, but still, should you have a job if you can't explain what you did? In my job, I have to explain 10 things I did in the last 2 days. Now, it's going to be a test in Virginia, whether former Democratic Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger or Lt Governor Winsome Sears are going to be able to win with this issue in the state of a large chunk of federal government workers there. And I think Winsome Sears has taken a good position, saying President Trump was elected fully explaining what he was going to do, she said. He didn't hide from anything. He didn't hide anything from anyone. As we know, the new administration, they offer different financial incentives to federal workers as part of like a deferred resignation program. And it has begun layoffs around the world, and only after a court intervention rescinded a plan for a broad pause on federal grants and loans. And obviously legal challenges are going to continue with most of the steps taken by the Trump administration at this point. And the Democrats, this is something they're going to be able to lean into. It's going to be tough for the Republicans. Virginia, they are bellwether. They elect someone opposite of the White House. Okay, that's going for the Democrats. You have 150,000 workers who work for the federal government, plus government contractors who live in Virginia. Now, you can make the case that, okay, some of them are going to get laid off and they're going to find jobs in Virginia. But some of them could get laid off and leave Virginia, because you think a lot of people come to Virginia, Maryland, D.C., that area, buy a house there when they know that they're going to be working there. But they don't really have any desire to stay there if they're not working in the federal government, at least where they have to be in Washington, D.C. So we're gonna see what happens. I think it could go either way. Ultimately, I think more people are going to be. I think the Republicans are going to be hurt in the state of Virginia because of this. Not saying it's a bad thing. I think overall it is a positive what Trump is doing. Now, obviously, nothing is perfect, but. Nothing is perfect, but the Republicans still could have a chance to win this seat with the proper campaign run here and with help from national Republicans. And Democrats are very quick to point out that Trump has never carried Virginia in his 3 runs for the White House. And Spanberger, who left Congress to run for governorship, has built up a huge fundraising advantage. So it's going to make it, like we said, it's going to make it tough for the Democrats for the Republicans in Virginia, especially that northern Virginia area. Wouldn't be surprised if we see on the state level or federal level congressional districts or House delegation seats that do not go in favor of the Republicans in the upcoming election. So for us conservatives, it's not just about politics. It is about the future, and we need someone like Governor Sears or Lieutenant Governor Sears to keep winning in Virginia. We want to keep Virginia a place where people can raise families, run businesses, and live free without progressive word police rewriting reality. That's what we don't need these virtue signaling, kind of like what they're doing in Wisconsin, trying to get rid of the word mother for inseminated person. It's just ridiculous. They're not going to do that in Virginia. And we know if Spanberger wins, it's going to be more of the same. Absolutely bloated budgets, soft on crime policies, and pushing school agendas of DEI, gender identity over actual education. The GOP has a shot to hold the line here, and we could see the first woman governor in Virginia, or the first black woman too. But ultimately in Virginia, the Republicans need to deliver results. It cannot just be about optics. We need to deliver results, and we need to convey the results that have been delivered in Virginia. Now, that's going to wrap things up for our video today on the Virginia's 2025 governor's race, Sears versus Spanberger, freedom versus control. Obviously, primaries are coming up here soon. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are on the upcoming race between Spanberger and Winsome Sears Earl Sears. And as always, if you liked the video, drop down below, hit that subscribe button, and make sure you never miss another video from us in the future. Have a good one, guys.